Hello everyone, my name is Rafael Centeno, and today I'd like to tackle the seller's contingency to find and enter into contract to purchase a replacement home. Now this comes into play when a seller is looking to sell their home, but only on the condition that they are able to purchase a replacement home on or about the same time. Now in this video, I will be referring to the number of days for a contingency or due diligence, and this comes from the contracts that are issued by the California Association of Realtors. So, as an example, a seller wants to sell his home and only on the condition that they are able to find and purchase a replacement home. Now, the seller hires a realtor and they put the property on the market. So now the property is on the market, and during this time, hopefully, they're looking for the replacement home. Now, there are times when you will get an offer, the seller will receive an offer from a buyer, and the offer is a good offer, and so therefore the seller accepts the offer. Now, if the seller accepts the offer from the buyer prior to finding the replacement home and entering that into escrow, then they will have to disclose this to the buyer, letting the buyer know that they can take up to 17 days to find and enter into escrow, into contract with the replacement home. Now, the first issue here is that the buyer will have to basically be on standby because they will not be able to conduct their investigation, their inspections, and to review the seller disclosures until the seller removes the contingency to find and enter into escrow their replacement home. Why is that? Well, it's possible that the seller may not ever find a replacement home. And if that's the case, then the buyer will have spent time, money, and energy on a property that they will not be able to purchase. It'll be canceled. So that's the first issue. The second issue is, let's say for instance that the seller finds the replacement home. So now they have the buyer over here, and the buyer is going to start their contingency period. They're going to start their 17 days if they're not requiring any financing, if it's going to be an all-cash deal. However, if they do need a loan for the purchase of the property, they will require 21 days. So if the buyer needs 21 days and the seller now is looking at the property that they're going to purchase on their replacement home, and they let that seller know, well, I'm going to need 21 days before I can start my contingency period with you, because I want to make sure that the buyer removes their contingency first before I start doing my contingency, my due diligence on your property. So what we're looking at here is 21 days for the buyer, right? Before the seller can start their contingency, their due diligence of 21 days or 17 days. If they do not require a loan, then it'll be 17 days. If they have enough money from the sale of their property to purchase this property all cash, then they won't require a loan. However, they still have 17 days to do their due diligence with regards to the inspections, the investigations, and the approval of the seller disclosures. Okay, so basically you're asking this seller over here to either wait a total of 42 days, and that would be 21 for the seller and 21 for the buyer. So the buyer does theirs, they go through 21 days, and then the seller with the purchase of the replacement home does another 21 days. So you're asking this seller over here to allow you for 42 days before you remove your contingencies, or if you're doing all cash, where the person that is buying your property, they're buying the seller's property, is going to pay all cash. So they do 17 days, and you have enough money from the proceeds of the sale of this property to purchase the other property, so thereby not requiring a loan, and it'll take you 17 days. So you're asking for 17 and 17, that's 34 days. So you'll be asking the seller over here for either, again, the 42 days or 34 days. Whatever the case may be, the vast majority of sellers 9 out of 10 will reject that offer. And why? Because in this current market, they will very easily find a buyer that has 17 or 21 day contingency time or period. So therefore, there is no reason why they would want to accept an offer that requires either 34 or 42 days for the contingency period. Okay, so I also did a video on contingencies, and I welcome you to look at that video so that you can get an idea of why the 17-21 days are important for the buyer, someone that's purchasing this property, to go through them and not remove the contingency, those contingencies in writing prior to being 100% sure that you can go through with the process. Okay, now going back to the seller contingency to sell, but only if they are able to find and purchase a replacement property. Now, what I found is that the only really good way to go through this process is if the agent, the realtor that you select, has the knowledge, the skills, and the experience to go through this process. And I'll explain why. There are basically two different transactions going on at the same time. And so the ideal way to do this is to close your escrow, the sale of your property first, and then a few days later, close the escrow for the purchase of your replacement home. That's ideally the way it should work, because you want the funds from the sale to go directly into the other escrow of the replacement home, and so therefore you will be able to close it one right after the other. So you have to first close the sale of your property first, and then close the escrow for the sale of the purchase of the replacement home. So I found out that it's imperative that the realtor that you select has, again, the knowledge and skills and experience to be able to work these two transactions at the same time. And I do find that looking through this, there are basically three C's that the realtor not only must have as far as the knowledge, the skills, and experience, but they also have to have these three C's. And this is very important. So C number one, the first C is they must be able to commit to working with you, to helping you not only sell your property, but also find the replacement home, the replacement property, and make sure that they follow through and work on these two transactions at the same time. It takes a lot of work and effort, a lot of time and effort to make sure that you get these two transactions to work at the same time. So number one is commitment. Number two, we're talking about communication. Number two is very, very important, and I'll tell you why. Again, since you have two different transactions, it's quite possible that you're going to have three different agents involved. So the agent that is helping you sell your property as a seller, the agent that is helping the buyer purchase your property, and the agent that is helping the seller, which is your replacement home as well. So you're looking at three different agents. So for that reason, it is very important that your realtor have the communication skills to be able to communicate with all parties involved. I have found in my experience that many times one or both of these agents are not very good at communicating, and so you have to go above and beyond, take the extra step to be able to make sure that you communicate and you have the skills to do this effortlessly, to be able to do this very well, to communicate with all parties involved. So communication, number two, is very important. And lastly, the third C is coordination. You have to be able to coordinate both transactions. There are two transactions and a whole bunch of moving parts in between. And so for that reason, it's important that the realtor you select knows and is able to coordinate two transactions at the same time, so that you close the sale of your home first, and shortly thereafter you close the escrow to the purchase of your new property, your replacement home. Okay. Now, through my knowledge, skills, and experience, I have been able to come up with a strategic plan that, if you look at this, you're looking at from the time that you accept the offer and you open escrow on the sale of your property to the time that you close escrow on your replacement home, you're looking anywhere between 30 to 45 days to get both of these transactions to close one right after the other. And when I mean one right after the other, I mean the sale of your property to close, and then 3 to 4 days later, the purchase of your new replacement home to close as well. Now, I am more than happy to share this with you, provide you with a free consultation to go over all the steps so that you know precisely what needs to happen and how this works. Please feel free to reach me online. You have my email address, you have my website address. I will also provide you with my phone number so that you can call me or text me if you'd like. Feel free to do any of those things anytime you'd like. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. I also want to thank you for watching this video. I know it's extremely long. I apologize, but I just had a lot of information to put out there so that you guys understand what entails the contingency of the seller when they want to sell a property, but they also only if they're able to purchase a replacement property. So that's really important, okay? Again, thank you so much for watching this video. Please feel free to contact me any which way that you can. I certainly appreciate it. And thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.